Hello again everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's great to have you all back. There's been so much going on, so many things that have been standing out to me. I need to share because I find these things to be very interesting. Now I'll start with is the rapture going to happen this month? Many believe so. I titled in the title of my last video, is the rapture on the 21st? There's people have been saying earlier, but nothing's happened. There's so many connections apparently to this month. I'm listening to everyone. I'm trying to hold one thing down, and it's not something we haven't done before. So I take it all. So I watch it very closely, but I take it with a grain of salt as well. There's been so many other things going on, such as they're starting to talk about UFOs a lot again. Now, I watched, I think today they brought out, and I watched something, and it was, there's a man with a beard. I didn't catch his name because I didn't really care, because he's what I found him to sort of come across as is he wanted to confirm with us all that they're not these UFOs, they're not from China, they can't be from Russia, and they have to be exotic. He was saying the word exotic, and what I got out of it was he sort of seemed to know a lot about something he wasn't sure of. He seemed to have a lot of facts about something he said, we can't be sure of. I mean, I found that a little bit suspicious. And another thing, Obama. I mean, his term ended what? Over a whole term ago. Like, he keeps popping up, and the one subject he keeps hammering on about is UFOs. Now, he made a comment because he can't keep his face out of the whole UFO thing. He has to, his voice. He said, I'll just find it here. He predicts new religions could arise if aliens are discovered. I mean, they're also talking now as if they're already here, right? And they're citizens. And can we tax them, and can we vax them, and will they be a sovereign citizen, and will we convert them to a religion? And I'm like, they haven't even arrived yet, and they're already making the rules for these things. Makes you wonder. Really makes you wonder. I caught the title of a video by a man named Steve Danoon. Now, he has a channel called Israeli News Live. Like, I didn't go into his video. I've got my reasons for not watching him. He has some interesting information, especially about Israel, and he says he's an Israeli himself, but he seems to be very anti-Israel, actually. He seems to, I mean, I don't know if he's anti-Israel. He's more, he doesn't speak highly of Israel. He speaks very highly of the poor Palestinians, though. But he had a title in the video. It was, what will Christians do if Rome is destroyed? And I'm sitting there thinking, we won't do anything. Remember that big one that burnt down in France? That was supposed to be an attack on Christianity. Or the Hagia Sophia in Turkey, like it was converted from a religious museum, which was mostly Christian, and it was converted fully into a mosque. We were supposed to be upset about that. But we're not upset. They're buildings. It's sad to see some history go, but they're just buildings. And we know that the body of Christ is the only building to worry about. So what will Christians do if the Vatican is destroyed? We'll do nothing. Amen. I've been watching closely in Florida. Now they've got a leader there, the state governor. I believe his name's Ron, first name, DeSantis. And I said, DeSantis, I said, that's an interesting surname. I'm going to look up the meaning, the deeper meaning of DeSantis, the word. Now, it comes from the Latin sanctus, which means sanctuary. And the first ever bearer of that name was said to be holy and devout, committed to God, which is, devout means committed to God, or to whatever you're committed to, but in this sense, committed to God. The reason I'm talking about him is because he seems to be standing up a lot for the people. And I thought, yeah, I mean, you don't 100% trust any politicians, but he just seems to be doing more of the right thing, I guess, by the people. But, you know, that's probably a matter of opinion for some, but I was just watching a few of his speeches, and that's what made me look into his name, because I kind of liked what he was saying. Did any of you watch that eclipse that took place up there in the Arctic? And I saw someone was talking about it on their video, and they showed it rising above the horizon, and the moon was covering it from the top, the sun, and as it rose up over the horizon, it looked like a pair of bull's horns. And guess where it just happened to take place? In the constellations, in the Mazzaroth, in the head of Taurus, which is a bull. It looked so ominous. And I'm looking at all the news reports of it and stuff. They're saying how beautiful it is and how wonderful. And I'm like, how can you look at that? It looks like literal devil's horns or cow's horns, bull's horns. And it looks so apocalyptic, it's not funny. And they're saying how wonderful and beautiful it was. Talking about that, somebody mentioned that there's that one up there in the Arctic, and then there's going to be another one very soon down over the Antarctic. And someone said, isn't this like as above, so below? And isn't it funny just the names, Arctic and Antarctic? Ark. I guess they're talking about an ark, but it's just interesting. Because the reason I say that is because there was another incident where the man was swallowed by the whale at Cape Cod, right in that sort of location where the eclipse just took place. Swallowed by a whale, spat out, lived to tell the tale. Was slightly injured, but fine otherwise. How this whale had accidentally swallowed him. Accidentally. There's no coincidences. The word coincidence in the Hebrew alphabet, by the way. swallowed him, squashed him a little, started to sort of choke, and then spat him back out. And he rose to the surface, and it looked like it completely changed him. His name was Michael, by the way. I mean, just so many connections to that. And I might have missed another 1,000. I might have missed a whole nother list of connections going on with that whole eclipse and the man swallowed by the whale and spat back out. And someone was pointing out that what Jesus said, an adulterous and wicked generation seeks for a sign, but none shall be given but the sign of Jonah. And it just so happens to be all taking place near New York, of all places, with the giant Statue of Liberty. Have you seen these giant statues going up? 21 cities, 21 locations on the 21st. 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. I believe that's what the pattern was. Someone said there's so many 21s. But I was like thinking of giants. And the company name putting these giants up, giant statues, is called the Giant Company from Ireland. So these statues can have images projected onto them of anyone, past and present, possibly future. And the interesting thing was, you could even go into a little booth and it would scan you, and then you would be on that thing. Now they're saying, oh, the head moves. It looks down and it can say things. They showed images of like Michael Jordan and Isaac Newton and Spider-Man, and it's like, could they be any more just, I mean, the image of the beast that could speak and had power and all this. I mean, they're talking how wonderful it's going to be for tourism. I'm like, what tourism? Are they planning on a new system with new kind of tourism or something? Well, no one can go anywhere. Tourism. Anyway, so looking into these giants, big theme on giants, I happen to have a bit of a deeper look into giants, and I found, I watched a movie recently. It was called Jack the Giant Slayer, based on Jack and the Beanstalk. Now, there's all these slightly different iterations of this story that goes way, way back into, they say it comes from Cornwall in England, but it's very close to Ireland, which is the giant company from Ireland who's putting up these giant statues. Now, here's the things I found interesting. So, Jack and the Beanstalk, I was like, wow, it's like that, and they're from the same area of the world where that fable or they so-called myth comes from, right? Giants. And if you watch the movie Jack the Giant Slayer, all these giants, they're coming from out of the sky to get revenge on a king. But the little man in the story who gives Jack the beans, he was said to have been, let me find the word here. He was said to have been from a pre-Christian Pythagorean cult, which is ancient Greece, the philosophers. Now, I just want to go to Scripture and talk about the giants. You've got Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, the God, came in unto the daughters of men, down here, men, our daughters, and they bare children, the daughters bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. I'm like, men of renown. I'm thinking of ancient history, and you look at the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, giant statues, the Egyptians, giant statues, Babylon. So where I'm going with that is that this pre-Christian Pythagorean cult, I believe it's in the Book of Enoch where they talk about how these sons of God, I believe, taught mankind about war and how to make weapons and how to use plants, and there were so many connections. There was even, I was talking about the giant statues they're putting up around that talk and can move. Their arms can move as well, and their head. They used to have in ancient Greece or Rome, I believe, but there was a temple. Now, if you're uneducated and you went to these temples, these giant statues they made would be inside their temple, and they would speak. There was even one, I believe you could put your child, you know, you got child sacrifice going on this one's hand, and it would move, and this thing would, it was all just smoke and mirrors, of course, because there was a man who was like Da Vinci, you know, he created all this stuff for the emperors or the whoever's in charge, but they didn't have Christ at that time, so they're getting all this influence from somewhere, that there's all these gods, and there's one of wisdom, and there's one of mathematics, and there's one of, and you read more into all that stuff, and you go, oh, it's kind of interesting, the mathematics stuff, but all this other stuff sounds like garbage. Like, it really does. Like, and all the colleges and universities around the world are based on that. Like, here's an example here. Go to Wikipedia and look up human. Just go human in Google. This is what they think of us. Are you ready? Humans, Homo sapiens, are the most abundant and widespread species of primates, characterized by bipedality, which means we walk on 2 feet, and large complex brains, enabling the development of advanced tools, culture, and language. Humans are highly social beings and tend to live in large complex social structures. I mean, it's talking about us like in the third person, like the person who wrote this isn't even a human, can't relate to us. And we're composed of many cooperating and competing groups, from families and kinship networks and political states. Social interactions between humans have established a wide variety of values, social norms, rituals, which bolster human society. Curiosity of the human desire to understand and influence the environment and to explain and manipulate phenomena have motivated humanity's development of science, philosophy, mythology, religion, and other fields of knowledge. I can keep going, but you can look that up yourself. Just go human in Google and you'll come to Wikipedia. And just read it, and it just really talks very, very low of us. And the person on here explaining what a human is, it's like they're not even part of us, like they're outside of us. We're just this. It talks about how we're omnivorous and all this, like we're crawling around in a field of grass and we're eating grass and then pouncing on other wildlife, and No mention of Christ, by the way. Think about this. This is one belief. This is one belief system. And they're putting it as the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There's no room for anything else in this belief. It's just, we evolved from, we are the smartest monkeys. Basically, to sum it all up, we're the smartest monkeys to walk this ball of dirt and rock with giant salty water in between us. And it doesn't give you much hope as a human. I don't even want to call myself a human now. Who even knows what the true definition of human is? It's probably very derogatory towards us. We are made in the image of God. And that's why this exists, this explanation of us, because we're not in control of this. We know who is. So, yeah. There you go. So, going back to all that theory, like from ancient Greece and ancient Rome, etc., they were basically a cult. It was a cult, the Pythagorean cult, and it was pre-Roman Empire, obviously. But they were like, listen to the description of them. They were vegetarian, wise. They were considered wise. They were to celebrate man as God. What else? They were extremely progressive. Yeah, so I find a connection between ancient Greece and these giant statues now that are speaking all the way through Jack and the Beanstalk. Maybe that's why that movie came out not so long ago. If you get a chance to watch that movie, like, you'll pick up so many things. Yeah, it's like, so what's going on now with all this new stuff? It's not new at all. It's ancient. The same thing is behind it. The same spirit, the same cult belief. You notice with animal activists, right? Some of them are really good people. They are, don't get me wrong. But some of them are they hate mankind. There's a mouse plague going on here in Australia. All the farmers are suffering, and it's being let to just run rampant. But they're not allowing farmers to really have any funding or do anything about it properly. You've got all these animal activists like Peter and stuff coming out saying, "Oh, I'll leave the poor mice alone." If you've seen footage of these mice, this plague, they're literally eating the house walls, nibbling people's toes in bed, scratching children in their bedrooms. There's so many of them. It is biblical. It's like something out of the Bible, like out of Moses' day. And they're trying to steer a narrative where it's like, oh, we feel more sorry for the mice. These things are going to cause a food shortage. I mean, they're carrying diseases. It's like the first time I saw it, it was, it's happening this year. The farmer was out at night. He was in his 4-wheel drive and he put his headlights on. The ground was swimming. The whole ground was alive. Like nothing you've ever seen. And they're trying to have compassion for these. Leave them alone. And that's what I find with these activists is they care more about animals than they do about their fellow human being. They could easily watch a human be murdered and, as long as we don't hurt a blade of grass or something. So wow, what a connection going on with the statues, the giant statues in ancient Greece and Jack and the Beanstalk and all that. And just think of Jack and the Beanstalk. It's like it's a giant that eats people. Okay, I was talking to an American Indian once, and he was trashing the Bible online. So I said, "Oh, tell me about your," because he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to someone else. He said, "Oh, you know, your stupid Bible and all this." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, tell me about your belief systems." I said, I started off the I said, "Was there a giant flood?" And he's like, "Oh, yes, there was." I said, "Were there giants?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, there was." And he started to go into more depth about it. He said, after the big flood in our culture, the giants come up out of the earth and they would eat people. Jack and the Beanstalk, fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. I'll grind his bones into broth. So you got giants eating people. You watch that movie and you'll see what I mean. Just one more thing on those statues. It's just very strange timing that France is sending over a second Statue of Liberty. I don't think it's as big as the last one, which is I think it was 33 meters high. Isn't that an interesting number? And apparently it's not who you think it is, that statue. And if you really want to boil it down, it's like in the old days you'd come on a ship into New York and you would be greeted by this giant statue, just like you were in the ancient Greek days. You'd come into a certain harbour and there'd be a giant statue there. So yeah, I find that the timing is just, I mean, there is no coincidences. By the way, all these ancient giant statues they had one of Zeus in his temple, and you know the hair was and the beard was gold, and I mean, awesome craftsmanship. But you know what? They can't find them anymore. They can't find them in one piece anymore. You know why? It's recorded in it's not got nothing to do with the Bible here. They've all been destroyed by earthquakes. Like that Alexandrian library, the one on the Mediterranean Sea that was destroyed by an earthquake. What sort of knowledge was in that library? It was destroyed by an earthquake. If you go look at all the ancient Roman and the Greek ruins, it looks like it was toppled by earthquakes. And no doubt that it was. God's just looking at that stuff, just saying, Not because he's like, I don't want you to have nice things. It was because of what they were doing with these things. They were putting all their trust and knowledge into these things, and you know, it was starting to sacrifice lives, especially children. It was no fairy tale. You want to look into those ancient temples and the rituals and what Zeus really meant. God of lightning. I saw who as lightning fall from heaven. I mean, I could go on and on. Next up, I want to talk about the whole UFO thing. You know, when Obama keeps popping up and keeps saying, oh, new religions will form when aliens show up and all this. I find it interesting that one of the UFOs they keep talking about is a pyramid. I mean, a pyramid. And mind you, that's the only one I look at on the footage of the Navy or whatever that looks man-made. Because I've seen all of their stealth aircraft and all that stuff. You don't have to be a detective to go, well, that's man-made, because there's many craft that you've already made and it's very secretive. So it's like, who says what? Who knows what they've got? And also, the other ones, the other things that they're seeing, like the balls of light, especially, the Tic Tac shape one and all this. There's probably a connection with the name Tic Tac because they keep saying Tic Tac. Balls of light. It's like angels of light, if you know what I'm saying. I remember the crop circles. They claim to have footage of what makes them, and you've already seen guys with these like rake things that make them, but they have like this. It looks really convincing. It's like footage of the crop circle being created by these balls of light, and so a connection to just angels of light, isn't it? I was watching Joe Rogan. There was a clip. I just clicked on it because I had to watch it because he was talking to a woman named Candace Owens. Very intelligent young lady. Very intelligent. But they were talking about Christianity. And I said, I've got to listen to this. It was only like a little 2-minute video or something. And then Joe, you know what he's like. I can't even watch the guy anymore. He totally just turned me off. He's talking to her and he gets down on the table and he looks at her and he says, "You don't really believe all that stuff, do you? You know, walking on water, raising from the dead, healing all these people." And she looked back at him and went, "Yes, yes, I do." And what I've noticed with Joe Rogan is he's big on the intoxicants on his show. He'll have either whiskey or a big joint or a pipe or something for someone to get into with him. He'll have a little bit and then he'll let his guest have some. And he gets them in a frame of mind, and then he attacks them, their beliefs. But this Candace Owens, I know pretty sure for a fact that she doesn't do anything like that. And just the way he was trying to like bait her into and just the look on his face, it wasn't a friendly one. It was like an attacking face. It was aggressive, like, "You don't really believe that stuff," like that. And I went, "Whoa, okay, there you go. Well, we know you don't, Joe." So who are these people, really? I mean, he had another guest on talking about crystal skulls and aliens, and he was like all ears. He's like, "Oh, tell me more. Oh, yeah, that could definitely." I'm like, but you believe a crystal skull can have all this power and stuff, like, but you're not willing to believe in the power of God. Notice how he's connected to a blood sport that has satanic symbols galore. I'm not saying I've never watched any UFC, because I have, because I'm interested in the fighters' lives. Like, remember Conor McGregor? Big loudmouth. Believed he was invincible. I don't think he's won any of his fights in the last 5 years. He's won one, but because they're people too. I want to see, because it reminds me of the Roman gladiators and what they must have gone through with fighting. And I can see it because, like, someone will get kicked in the head and they'll get knocked out cold and they'll just drop like a post. And the crowd, the way they cheer, they just saw another human. I'm not going to say human, remember, fellow man, just kicked in the head as hard as somebody can and falling like they're dead. And there's fights where there's just blood everywhere, all over the opponents, all over the floor. They're basically mopping each other around in blood. I mean, that's who Joe Rogan's connected to, and he loves all the samurai stuff. I watched a samurai movie about a week ago. Not even that. It was called 47 Ronin, and it had Keanu Reeves. Now, I was just curious. I want to watch this movie because I'm interested in the samurai, because I've watched ancient history on the samurai, and it was not a good place to live. It was like constant suicide, constant murder, constant dictatorship. It was horrible. But in this movie, there's a section where the leader of one side, he's asleep in he's like the king, like kind of like a king, but he's asleep in his bed, and this woman who's a shapeshifter, she's amongst them, and she can shift into anything, any human but while this guy's asleep, she basically sleep paralysis is this guy, and then starts suggesting things in his ear and all this kind of stuff, and he believes that his wife in the next room is being attacked, so he because this demon shapeshifter woman is calling out help in his wife's voice, and so he goes to check, and he starts attacking this man, and then he starts to see reality, but it's like he's in another dimension, and it just reminds me of what sleep paralysis is, and I thought that is sleep paralysis. It's real. Ask anyone who's had a sleep paralysis experience, and they'll tell you how real that is. Me included. But yeah, so it ends up getting this king emperor executed, because this shape-shifting demon wants it that way, because she wants to usurp power with this other guy. Anyway, so yeah, watch out for that, Joe Rogan. What a deceiver. He seemed interesting sometimes, but now we really know who he is. Kamala Harris. Now, some interesting things have been going on with her at this time of recording. She put out a tweet that said, "Oh, Hillary, Biden's got dirt on you." And everyone's going, "Oh, this is the part where the Clintons have Biden executed and Kamala seizes power." I'm like, are we just watching a stage show? I mean, maybe she will. By the way, her name is an Indian goddess, Kamala. Comes from Kali. Kali is referred to as the god of darkness. Doom, destruction, gave birth to all these other gods, like Kamala. It's said to have been born from a lotus, which reminds me of ancient Egypt. So, what's going on there? I was watching a Canadian preacher being arrested at his house for breaching the orders from above. Now, they came to his house, and there's a whole big video. It's on that Rebel News, which I don't 100% trust either. It was in Calgary, in Canada. Some things I picked up watching the video. The policeman, while he was arresting him, the pastor was asking him something. "Oh, how can you do this? And you're arresting me for having a meeting." The policeman turned around and said, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "I understand it." He said, "If 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there also. So you don't need to have a big gathering." And I thought, wow, he's quoting Christ. But other things I noticed, it was on the 6th of the 6th, 21, so 2 and 1 equal 3, so Also, the policeman, once he got into his car after putting the man in there, the pastor, they had the motto on the side of the police car. It said, "Courage, vigilance, pride." And then they went around the back of the police car and it had the pride ribbon for Pride Month. I found it very interesting because somebody pointed out, they said, "Pride goeth before destruction." And I thought, well, it's like everyone's expecting the escape of the bride and the rapture this month. And pride goeth before destruction. It was like, wow. And someone also pointed out what apostasy meant. The great falling away. They said that it was the opposite of what we thought, and he had proof. And it was like, because we have a different understanding, if you're believing in a pre-tribulation rapture and all that, an escape of the bride, you understand it totally different to someone who's going to church every Sunday just trying to be a good little girl or boy. So that was the falling away. I'm like, isn't that interesting? I mean, I might not be right there, but they had a good case for it. It made sense the way they put it. So also, I overheard the policeman say he was just doing his job, and I thought, how far is that going to go? Like, if they had to hold someone down and give them the you-know-what, I'd like to just ask one, would you do it? Would you? Against their will? And the only thing I could think of in my mind was, yeah, the majority of them will. And that their defense will be, I was just doing my job. I had orders to follow. I was just doing my duty. That's what they're going to say. And I find that kind of scary, really. Now, I don't always like to be serious. Like, I love comedy. Do you guys love comedy, like stand-up comedy? My favourite stand-up comedy would have to be guys who don't have to use, or women, they don't have to use a lot of like really bad words. They're just funny. And they'll just, to me, that's my summation of comedians, is the funny ones don't have to use that foul language. It's something you can watch with your kids to a degree. There was a man I was watching last night. He had me in absolute hysterics. His name was Jeff Allen. I watched his show, went for about an hour. He was so funny, and for probably the first 20 minutes I didn't realize it, but as he was getting into his show, I realized how much more and more Christian and devoted to his wife he was, but he was so funny. You know, you get these comedians now, they're just so crude. And it's not funny. You're sitting there uncomfortable. It's like... So he kept bringing up Adam and Eve, and he had the funniest jokes about... he wasn't making fun of them. He was like saying, oh, how God's punishing us with teenagers because it's something you created that denies your existence. I thought that everyone was in hysterics. So if you get a chance, check out Jeff Allen. He is wunderbar, which is wonderful in German. Also, I like music. There is a guy, he's a DJ. Now, he has some DJ decks, and he carries them all around England. He'll like run through the forest with them, and he's DJing, and he'll like get on a kayak and he'll be kayaking down a river DJing, and he's absolutely hilarious. Suat, S-U-A-T. If you get a chance, you want a good feel-good laugh and nice music, because we can't be all doom and gloom. We're going to be full of joy because we're going to be celebrating. I mean, imagine getting there and to our final destination and being miserable, sitting on a chair being miserable and depressed. So I'm just practicing for then when I like to have a laugh and I like to hear some good music. Nothing wrong with that in my eyes. But someone was making a comment about music in general. They said, because I was looking up, Lucifer was a musician, God's musician. And someone said in a comment, they said, Lucifer was only ever meant to create music to praise God. All other music is either a distraction or self-indulgent. I was like, wow. If it's not praising God, it's self-indulgent or... But I don't know. Like, I guess we can't be too self-indulgent, but at the same time, I mean, are we really not meant to, like, rock and roll is the devil's music? Some of it's great. I mean, music. He created Lucifer, didn't he? With instruments. It says he's timbrels and all this, covering cherubim. Now, I don't know if I've seen anywhere it says wings, because he's always depicted with wings. But a lot of websites and all, they were talking about this subject, and they were saying how beautiful Lucifer was. They speak so highly of him. Like, it's almost as if they're worshipping him. They look up to it so much. It's just... But, you know, he ruined that. And that's where we are now, isn't it? Waiting to be redeemed. Redeem us. I was talking about that pastor before in Canada, in Calgary, being arrested. We also had one here in Australia. He was arrested, and I was listening to the news report, and I was shocked. I don't know if it's true or not, but they took his Bible off him for a whole week while he was in jail. He's out now. And the policeman made a comment about this pastor. He said his beliefs are strong and concerning. This pastor apparently was helping to free sex slaves. So it's interesting that he was thrown in jail for a week and taken his Bible off him and told that his views and beliefs are extreme. That's where we're at. I had a couple of dreams. I can't go away without talking about these dreams I had. I was with a bunch of friends. We were in some big old mansion, and there were some books they were trying to kind of shove down my throat. You read these books, and I just knew in my soul, in my spirit, that these are not good books. I slammed my hand onto a pile of these books they had, and I said, I cover these books with the blood of Jesus. And I said it really loud and like meaningful, you know. And I looked around, they all freaked out. And then I woke up from that bit. Then I had a separate, it was a long dream, but this is the only part I remember. I was on water, like on a houseboat platform or on some sort of jetty. And it was like just before dawn and the sky was still dark, and it was like a river and a city or something. But there was the half crescent moon, and then there was just I think it was every planet. And they were lined up from right to left, really low, all along the horizon. And right now, I'm looking at the moon. I think that's maybe why I had the dream, but I don't know what it meant. But I've been looking towards the western horizon as the sun's going down. You've got the moon and Venus, and it's so bright. And they're next to each other, just before sundown. They'd even be there at after sunset. So I was just like, it was such a strong dream. I had to write it down. And the thought came to my head as soon as I was like, what does it mean? What does it mean? And it was like, it's just a thought. I don't know. Some people think they're getting talked to, but it could be. But Joseph, how he said, the sun, moon, and stars all bow down to me. I'm not saying to me, I'm saying it's like they're preparing to bow down. Because Joseph was thought of as a Christ figure, was he not? Like Job. It's like they all went through these Christ-like, like David. They went through these Christ-like events, like suffering, and like Job was in a pit, and so was Joseph, and I believe David even was. And Jonah in the whale, how he gets taken to the heart of the earth, and when Christ was buried, he went to the heart of the earth to free the people in paradise. Isn't that funny how the Muslims say, oh, paradise? And like when you study the Bible, they say paradise was a place under the earth. I just want to quickly talk about some channels that I want to give a little bit of a shout out to. One, I want to sort of maybe say be a little bit aware of him now. Beware. There's a channel named Tony Su. Tony S.U. Great for encouragement. He's always just working so hard to keep you encouraged. And he's onto it. He's totally onto what's going on in the world too. Rapture Saint. He's in the Philippines, I believe, but every day he's posting something. Except for the last one, he put up something that said, oh guys, I'm having a few family issues, I won't be back. But every day he's putting something up. Anything he sees. LED or Little Light Studio, and they really are good at exposing aspects of Hollywood. And once you understand what they're talking about, you'll understand that everything about Hollywood, every little thing about Hollywood is from the enemy. It's just a big spell. Fantastic channel. Now, the last one I quickly want to get to, DTBM. I've mentioned him many times. Very smart man, great lectures, knows so much of the Bible. Very studied in the Bible, very studied. But something he said concerned me, how he had a video that said, is the mark of the beast? And I said, oh, I've got to watch this one. And he said, no, it's not. A lot of people believe it is. I'm not going to say it is or it isn't, because I don't know. I don't think it is, because it's also in your forehead. Maybe they got something to put in your forehead. But anyway, he said, yes, I'm getting both. And he said it loud and proud, and him and his wife, and so he can keep traveling and all this. And everyone basically turned against him in the comments. They said, you don't know what you're saying. And I didn't turn against him, but I just thought to myself, okay, all right, that's your choice. But then he went on and he was talking about a lamb, right? This was just something that set up a red flag. He's talking about a lamb, and when he's talking about a lamb, he wasn't even talking about horns. He put up 2 little horns on his head, and something just went like, I don't know if I trust this man anymore. There was something, because that'd be a perfect place for a demon to hide. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying that'd be a place where a demon would hide, would be in a lecturer. And he always talks about how he puts his listeners to sleep, because he's got a monotone voice, and he just goes on and on. He knows so much about history, and I've noticed he talks highly about Lucifer too sometimes. Like, it sounds like he is talking highly of him, but he's supposed to be not. It's like he's just slipping him in there. Like, I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think his channel was fantastic. But I've just noticed these things, So maybe have a look yourself and see what you think. So yeah, and Steve Danoon, he's made a lot of false predictions in the past, and he said he's got all these connections. He sounds like the guy who goes around being a fake policeman. You know, he's got all the gear and a badge and everything, and then he gets busted by a real cop, because they're around those kind of people, just for attention, because they didn't really make anything of themselves in their life. I could be wrong. I mean, but he has been a bit of a fearmonger. He said big things are going to happen here and there, and they never do. But he's got all this inside information, and I find that a little bit misleading and fear mongering, which is prevalent in the Alex Jones, sort of community. Fear, fear, fear. If you just listen to him all the time, it's like you'd believe the fight's over. I'm going to leave it there now, guys, because I've said so many things and I've talked a lot. But it's been great having you back. Pray for me. I'll never ask you for money. Just pray for me. And I'm being serious when I say that, because making these videos, it's like being out there in a battlefield, and the attacks. You know what I mean. Anyway, guys, I'll speak to you next time. It's been great having you all back. Let's keep watching, keep waiting. There's so much going on. So I look forward to meeting you all one day. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.